66 million years ago, the sky opened up, and 165 million years of dominance ended in a single afternoon. Dinosaurs had ruled this planet longer than almost anything else ever has. Then, they were gone. You probably think you know why. A giant rock fell from space, end of story. But that's not actually what killed most of them. The real answer is stranger, and honestly, a lot more interesting. Let's start with the world before. 66 million years ago, Earth was warm almost everywhere, even near the poles. Thick forests covered most of the land. Dinosaurs came in every shape you can imagine, some the size of a chicken, some longer than a school bus. They weren't dying out. They weren't struggling. This wasn't a species in decline. It was a planet running exactly the way it had for over 100 million years. Then, on one ordinary day, everything changed. A rock about 6 miles wide, roughly the size of a small city, was falling toward Earth at around 45,000 miles per hour. Nothing on the ground had any warning. No sound, no signal, nothing. Just a streak of light in the sky, and then impact. It hit near what is now the coast of Mexico, in a place called Chicxulub. And this is where the simple version of the story usually stops. An asteroid hit, and the dinosaurs died. But that single moment, the actual impact, wasn't the main killer. It was just the opening act. Here's what actually happened in the first few minutes. The impact released more energy than 1 billion nuclear bombs going off at once. It punched a hole in the Earth's crust 20 miles deep. Rock, dust, and melted debris shot straight up into the sky, some of it flying so high it left the atmosphere completely before falling back down. Anything living within 1,000 miles was almost certainly killed instantly, by heat, by shock waves, by the ground itself being torn open.
But most dinosaurs didn't live within 1,000 miles of Mexico. Some were on the other side of the planet. So why did they die too? This is where the story gets more interesting, because the asteroid itself wasn't the main weapon. What came after it was. When all that vaporized rock shot into the sky, it didn't just fall back down near the crater. Superheated debris scattered across the entire planet. And as it fell back through the atmosphere, it heated up again, like millions of tiny meteors raining down everywhere at once. Scientists believe this turned the sky in many regions into something like a broiler for a few hours. Forests caught fire on a scale that's hard to picture. Entire continents burning at the same time. And then, just as the fires were dying down, the real disaster began. All that ash, soot, and dust didn't just disappear. It rose into the upper atmosphere and spread around the entire globe, forming a thick curtain that blocked out the sun. Scientists call this an impact winter. For months, maybe longer, the planet went dark. Not dim, dark. Sunlight barely reached the ground in some places. Now, think about what that actually means for life on Earth. Plants need sunlight to grow. Without it, they stop producing food and start dying. When the plants die, the animals that eat plants start starving. When those animals die, the predators that eat them start starving too. It's a chain reaction, and it doesn't skip anyone. This is the part most people get wrong about the extinction. It wasn't really about fire or heat or the impact itself. It was about starvation. Temperatures dropped sharply as the sun's warmth got blocked out. Oceans, which had been warm and stable for millions of years, cooled and became more acidic as the chemistry of the atmosphere shifted. This wasn't a bad week for the planet. This was years of collapse. And dinosaurs, especially the big ones, were in the worst possible position to survive it.
A massive plant-eating dinosaur might need hundreds of pounds of food a day. When plants stopped growing, there was simply nothing that could keep an animal that size alive. Large predators had it just as bad, because once the plant eaters started dying off, there was nothing left for them to hunt either. So who actually survived? And this is the part that explains almost everything. Small size helped enormously. Animals that needed very little food could hang on longer while everything around them collapsed. Being able to burrow helped too, since hiding underground meant escaping the heat, the fires, and some of the worst of the temperature swings on the surface. Being able to eat almost anything helped as well. Seeds, insects, dead plant matter, scraps, anything that didn't require a stable, thriving ecosystem to find. Small mammals checked almost every one of those boxes. They were tiny, needed little food, many could burrow, and most weren't picky eaters. While the giant dinosaurs were starving in the open, these small creatures were surviving in tunnels underground, eating whatever scraps they could find, waiting the disaster out. And birds survived too, because birds actually are dinosaurs. This is not an exaggeration or a simplification. It's just modern science. Birds are the direct descendants of a group of small, feathered dinosaurs that made it through the collapse. So in the most literal sense possible, dinosaurs never actually went fully extinct. You've probably seen one today, sitting on a wire or pecking around a park. In total, scientists estimate that around 75% of all species on Earth died out in the aftermath of that single impact. Not because of one bad day, but because of what that one day set in motion. The asteroid was the trigger. Darkness, cold, and starvation were what actually did the killing. And here's the part that puts it all in perspective. Dinosaurs had already survived earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, disease, and climate shifts for well over 100 million years. They weren't weak. They weren't unfit. They were simply unlucky enough to be alive on the one day something arrived from outside the entire system, something evolution had never prepared any of them for. It's strange to think about, but the very same event that ended the reign of the dinosaurs is the reason mammals ever got the chance to take over. If that rock had missed Earth by a few hours, dinosaurs might still be the dominant life on this planet today, and none of us would be here to ask how they disappeared. Sometimes the biggest turning points in history don't come from something being wrong with a species. They come from something enormous and completely outside anyone's control, arriving on an ordinary day and rewriting everything that comes after it.